It's that time again in the Destiny 2 life cycle. We got the big major expansion and now we're back to that seasonal and episodic formula. They delivered and then some when it came to the final shape, giving us that culmination of a 10-year saga and delivering that endgame-like experience that most of us didn't think we'd actually get and that Bungie could really pull off. But we're now a month removed from that, and for many, including myself, it's like coming crashing back down to earth. From time-gated upgrades to needless patches of exploits, it's got us asking that age-old question again. Do we need a Destiny 3? Bungie are probably thinking, come on man, we just gave you the final shape, give us a break. But with any live service, that's just the nature of it. It's a proper loaded question, but it comes with many different lenses. Is it just an adverse reaction to the new episodes? Is it that it's near impossible to replicate the same expansion quality in those episodes? I think there's more to it than that. For me, I want to start with the loot and the sandbox itself. We've power crept so hard in these last few years with Subclass 3.0, the new weapon archetypes to the all-powerful prismatic, and with that, it's come at a cost for me personally. Because I look at all these new seasonal weapons, and I just couldn't care less. Because I feel like I've got everything that I possibly need for every circumstance right now. I look at these weapons and I'm just pretty disinterested. Look, I can only speak from my viewpoint on this, but I don't find loot interesting anymore. I look at this season and all I want is that rocket solar sidearm crafted. Thing is, this is quite normal. This is a 7-year-old game at the end of the day, and the fact that Bungie are still finding new weapon archetypes or exotics and still finding the way to surprise players is indicative of what their quality and creativity is actually like. Like for example, the healing auto rifle that was introduced at the final shape. It was brand new. But for me, we've got so powerful now that I personally feel only a fresh wipe and a new sandbox of a Destiny 3 is the only way to make me care about the loot again. Onslaught was a terrific addition with the brave shiny drops, but doing that a second time round, I'm thinking to myself, would I even want to invest in that, because I've barely even used the god rolls that I spent 50 plus hours farming, which is a worrying sign because a game that is essentially about farming god rolls and getting specific weapons, having me lose interest is indicative of, well, they've already perfected the game and the weapons already. Thing is that Destiny is now so ability and sandbox driven that it's lost a lot of the shine of what I came to it to begin with. My journey with Destiny started with Thor when it got reintroduced as part of the Forsaken year. I've always felt like Destiny was about my relationship with the guns and having my specific gun in certain scenarios. I look back and I think about when I first got Breakneck or Recluse, and I thought to myself, well, I can think about the situations and the activities that I ran with those guns. Sure, there's still some activities now that I can think about, but the point remains is that whether it's crafting, whether it's the fact there's just so many weapons in the sandbox, I can't help but feel like these guns don't matter in the same way that they used to. I feel like everything is just samey because we're just too powerful for anything now. Which then brings us into episodes and their content, which again, in this episode, I really like the new battlegrounds. They're basically just really good strikes, and the Enigma protocol is something that's pretty fun and different. The issue is, I don't care for the rewards now. And therefore, now that I've reached Pinnacle, I don't have much of an incentive to run any of these activities because I'm just pretty uninterested in the loot. We've had some terrific seasonal activities. The Coil was brilliant, I really enjoyed Savathûn's Spire, I love the deck system, but ultimately, if I don't care about the loot, it doesn't matter what coating of paint you put on it, I'm not going to play it. I wouldn't consider myself hardcore because I make sure I play other games too, so that I don't burn out, but I'm definitely not casual either. Look, I haven't been in love with episodes so far as they feel like seasons with a fresh coat of paint, but I'm not willing to give a final verdict on those until we at least get through to Act 3. But man, from the time gating of upgrades in the helm, to the same old seasonal structure of the stories, to go to the hologram, come back to the hologram, run seasonal activity, go talk to the hologram again, alright, we'll see you next week. And it's been the same old for such a long period of time. But that's also because it feels like they perfected the structure, but now it just feels stagnant. And when you're 7 years into that, you just start to feel a bit numb from it. Speaking of numb, again, The core playlist kind of just exists now. Sure, you have Grandmasters or Iron Banana, but to me, they don't feel like worthwhile playlists. The core playlists themselves, they feel like playlists of a bygone era. You see people in the Halo community like begging for a Gambit-like mode, and like we did get some new enemies here, but these modes, they just feel drained. On top of that, I mean, talk about executing with the best exotic mission that this game has ever seen, and then nerfing the one exploit that gave it good replay value to it within weeks. I'm seeing the First Descendant buffing their loot exploits, not nerfing them. It's weird because so much momentum was regained with the final shape, and then it was sucked away from strange decisions of time gating or nerfing a fair exploit that actually helped players. I think about on top of this as well, one of my best Destiny memories is getting one of my best friends into Destiny. It was reinvigorating for me. But there is no onboarding point, there is no good onboarding system to get new people into the game. So when I was running through a lot of that content, I was going through it all over again, and it was like going through it with a fresh pair of eyes, and it was exciting again. But now, you can't recommend Destiny to anybody at this point. I find it such a struggle to, because even me, someone who went and started a Warlock just before the final shape started, I felt overwhelmed when I first logged in as that Warlock. So what's a new player going to feel? From its systems to the narrative, it's just a complete onboarding mess. And this is something that I really do feel that only a sequel can fix when you look at episodes and seasons and expansions and how the rollout of all that will go. You pair that with the final shape probably being a swan song for a lot of people's journey with Destiny. It was the perfect conclusion, it really was. To the point where a lot of people have said goodbyes to Destiny once the credit rolled. So we're at a point now where people have the toughest of barriers to entry, and the game is likely losing players to people who finished the journey. We know next year is bringing with it Frontiers, and everyone is beginning to doubt that's an expansion with just more episodes, but we don't really know, we can't judge that yet. Reading between the lines, it seems like we're gearing up to leave the system on the Dreadnought. But it's the balance of, well, where is the jumping on point going to be? If we leave the system and then start new journeys next year in episodes, is there a D3 to jump into as a good onboarding point if we're already partway through the storyline? Then there's the question of, okay, Bungie have got multiple projects being worked on. You got Marathon, which is due out next year, so what's the balance like in terms of how many people are still working on Destiny 2? Obviously, for them, they won't come out and be like, yeah, basically half the team's gone, because everyone will just get up and leave at that point. But it does feel weird to be in the dark about Destiny's future when we've always known a lot about what's coming. You know, I've spoke a lot about why we might need a Destiny 3, but that's not to say that Destiny 2 can't still evolve or isn't still evolving. We've had introductions like the Pathfinder system, which, say what you want about the ritual introduction of that, the one on the Pale Heart has been a really good addition. They've still found ways to get new exotics into the game that are really exciting. You've got the reintroduction of Kvostov, you got Microcosm, you got Still Hunt, and then even things like the No Hesitation Auto Rifle or the core sidearms. They're still finding ways to find loot to be interesting. Even the experimentation they did with the Brave Arsenal, I found that exciting in terms of chasing the route and getting a specific ornament in terms of playing at that time. They've shown that they can still evolve on this game, but they really have perfected the formula of what Destiny 2 is now. And that comes with the sentiment that Destiny 2 is in the best shape that it's ever been in. And that's likely correct because they've nailed the formula. But all I can think of is, where do you go next? Bungie are truly capable of surprising us, that's for sure. They may have an elaborate plan that will excite, but I'm not sure they can do much to address the issues and fundamental problems that I have with the game right now. That only a sequel can fix for me. And it's not a dig against Bungie. In fact, I think they've worked absolute miracles to have a first-person shooter that still has the ability to surprise this many years later. For me, the ideal scenario is another year of episodes before an eventual break in 2026 and a release of Destiny 3 in 2027. Look, that's pure dreamland. And I don't speak for everyone, I just speak for me. And I think the issues that I've mentioned here are only further enhanced the further down we go with Destiny 2. I don't know Bungie's situation, they obviously need Marathon to be a huge success, which, who knows. I look at Concord, which I liked, but the sentiment among the masses doesn't seem to be great. If we were to get a Destiny 3, I don't imagine it's remotely close. And I also think a year or two completely away from Destiny will be very beneficial to many. Truthfully, I love the Destiny universe. Like, you only have to look over my left shoulder to see a tower from the final shape and the miniest of miniature thorns that I got a couple of years ago. I love this game. I love playing this game. I will still continue to play this game. But I always think it's interesting to see what is next and what could be next and what is the current situation and problems with the game. But that's just my opinion. I want to know, what are you thinking about a Destiny 3 or a Destiny 2 as it is? Do you want a sequel? Or are you quite happy with the road that we're taking right now with episodes and maybe like more expansions in Destiny 2? Is there anything that I have mentioned or haven't mentioned that makes you want a sequel or not want a sequel? If you enjoyed the video, dropping a like really does help me out, and hey, maybe consider subscribing if you enjoyed what I'm doing here. I just like talking about the things that I'm passionate about when it comes to games and the video games that I love. So if you're after more of that, consider subscribing. As always, all my socials are linked in the description down below, so if you want to get at me anywhere, get at me on there. Otherwise, have a terrific day, look after yourself, and I'll catch you in the next one.